Alright, so currently at my Airbnb, the top floor. Look how freaking nice and fancy it is. We're only paying like $500 a month here. Plan on doing some maybe videos, vlogging here. Got like a ghetto standing desk I could probably do there. And yeah, check out the view of the city. It's a beautiful, bright day in the city. Alright, so I had some questions that I wanted to share with you and some just random thoughts that perhaps I could just make a quick video. So the first question is, what's the difference between living abroad and the difference between, I guess, traveling abroad? So to me, this is the main difference. I think for me, living abroad means to think of yourself like a local. So obviously, I'm not Mexican, I wasn't born in Mexico City, yet I feel really deeply connected to the culture because I grew up, in Northern California, obviously with a lot of Mexican people, and I actually feel, and also in terms of growing up, I grew up like mostly working class, poor class, whatever, and so I actually feel closer in terms of class to Mexican people than even other Asian people or white people and so forth. And I remember even when I was 16, I used to work in a kitchen, always working with all the Mexicans. Hey, ¿qué pasó, cuñado? And then, learning Spanish from them. And actually, even when I was in high school, I really enjoyed studying Spanish. And yeah, so there's something about the Mexican culture I love is that people are very open-minded, people are super friendly. And it's kind of the culture that I think I prefer. And of course, I love Mexican food and the benefits of being here in Mexico City. The cost of living is super, super cheap. Obviously compared to the States. So for example, we're staying in this like posh, like luxury apartment Airbnb, costs only $500 a month. You go to all these fancy restaurants, super fancy restaurants that might cost like $60, $70 a person in the States, costs us like maybe $15-$20 a person here. Or if you eat street food, tacos are like 40 cents and stuff like that. So there's a wide variety of experiences you can have in Mexico City. So you can have super, super cheap stuff and also super fancy stuff. Because if you go to even the more fancy parts of the, like Polanco in Mexico City, you got people walking around with Panerai $30,000 watches. You got people driving around Lamborghinis and Maseratis, whatever. So just kind of realize that I think the wrong impression that a lot of people have about Mexico City, they think is, just scrappy, poor Mexican people. But honestly, like, Mexico City, it feels kind of like a New York City. It feels very cosmopolitan. It kind of has a European vibe. Men are walking around in suits, tailored suits, nice hair, sunglasses, leather shoes. The women are very fashionable too. There's lots of art, there's a lot of culture, and it feels like it's its own thing like New York City. And so, everyone here mostly speaks English. I almost feel like I'm still kind of in like downtown LA, which is quite interesting. And yeah, and I think the benefits of living here for me, focusing on creative productivity, I always feel like when I'm in some sort of foreign or new place, I have more creative inspiration and energy and stimuluses because obviously, when you're living abroad, you're going to be doing more adventurous things. You're not just sticking inside your bubble. And also just the practical thing about just living in a city is that you can just kind of walk around more. Like when you're kind of in LA or in the suburbs or anywhere else in the States, if you need a car to get anywhere, it kind of sucks because you're kind of stuck. Whereas here, you could just walk anywhere and you could have all these interesting experiences. And also, simple things like I like to practice my Spanish. Obviously, Spanish is not my first language. So when I'm trying to learn Spanish, I usually mostly like situational difficulty to try to explain concepts. So whenever possible, I try never to default to English, even though I know the people are totally fluent in English. And I'll try to explain myself in Spanish. And then this is interesting, what happens, this is the way I learn, is if there's a more difficult concept I'm trying to say in Spanish, I'll try to use the simple words I already know in Spanish. And then while I'm trying to explain it, then the person who's talking to me will give me the words, oh, what you mean to say is da 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 da. And I'll, oh yeah, that's the word. And then you're all obviously saying this in Spanish. And I think it'll be cool too, because like obviously living here in Mexico City for a month, I assume my Spanish is gonna get way better. And when I'm back in the States, speaking Spanish to any random Mexican person and I sound more like a local, I'm sure it's going to be hilarious because, here's this random dude who's coreano pero estudia español la secundaria y hablar español porque me gustaría la cultura de México, me gusta comer cochinta pibil y comida de calle and whatever it may be. So so life here is super good, super relaxed, and if you've ever thought about living nomadically or intermittently in different places, Mexico City, oh man. If you're in the States, Mexico City is great because even flying here from LA was only a 3-hour direct flight. Another city, which is my favorite, is probably Saigon in Vietnam, which is obviously a little bit further away for people. So that's two of Eric Kim's favorite places for living at the moment, Mexico City and Saigon. In terms of which I prefer better, honestly, I really love both because it's just totally different. Like you're in Vietnam, you're like in Asia, so everyone's Asian. And speaking Vietnamese is a different language, a different culture. But actually, even Vietnamese culture and Mexican culture are more similar in the sense that people are super friendly, everyone's smiling, everyone's super friendly. The culture has really, really good vibes. And this is the interesting thing. At this point, people, they talk about race, ethnicity. I think these are kind of like too fluffy concepts. I prefer the idea of culture because, racism, I think what it is more of like culturism is that people think that their culture is better than other people's culture. So, who knows, maybe even me as an American, because like even me ethnically or racially, I'm Korean, Asian, but culturally I'm probably more American and at this point hopefully becoming more Mexicano. So yeah, anyways, just the practical considerations I'd give is if you are traveling abroad, the difference is usually when you're traveling, you're there for a few days or maybe a few weeks. If you're living somewhere, you're there for a little bit longer, like a few weeks, a few months, whatever it may be. But of course, you're always going to be a foreigner. But I think the main difference is just if you're living in a place abroad or you're traveling abroad and you just want to enjoy yourself more, don't feel so rushed. Don't feel so like you have to see all the things, you have to eat all the things. Like even most of the time when I'm living abroad or traveling, I don't really care to see all these touristy land sites that much. I would just think to myself, if I were a resident living here for like years, what would I like to do on a regular basis? Which for me means going to coffee shops. I like going to marketplaces. This is cool. I like to talk to strangers. So whenever you're traveling abroad in a foreign country, treat like it's your own country, your own city, and I think it'll give you a more interesting, genuine, fulfilling experience because it's not a matter of, I don't think it's really a matter of there are certain experiences which are better than others. There are just going to be more experiences for you in your life that feel more fulfilling or less fulfilling. So focus on doing things which are more fulfilling, and hopefully we'll share some more thoughts with you. So what are your personal thoughts about the difference between living abroad versus traveling abroad, etc.? Feel free to leave a comment down below and share your thoughts. And also if you have any tips for Mexico City, feel free to leave them down. But anyways, Mexico City, this place is amazing. This is my thought. I think Mexico should build a wall to keep the Americans out. Peace out.